Sony finally figured out why their Spider-Man universe, their Spider-Verse, failed. Before we even start this, I'm going to say, well, you are making mediocre to bad movies. You weren't giving the fans what they wanted. You had Spider-Man universe movies without who in it? Spider-Man. And I think what might have fooled you with that was the fact that you didn't have Spider-Man and Venom. And that worked for the most part. I like Venom. I bought it and I got it. The next one wasn't too great. And yeah. So, and I knew Madam Web was going to fail. But I liked Craven's first trailer. I really liked it. I was hyped for Craven. And then Craven was terrible. And I really liked the Morbius trailer, first trailer, and the first footage. And that ended up just being okay with me. But I get it. If Venom hadn't have worked, you might have backtracked and made sure that you put Spider-Man in all the movies. But at the end of the day, they can't be mediocre or bad. They need to be great movies. Like Spider-Man No Way Home. Following those footsteps. Let's check this out and let's see what this says that they think is the reason why they failed.
So it looks like Sony finally gets it when it comes to superhero movies and, of course, particularly Spider-Man movies. Or if you could even call them Spider-Man movies, because Spider-Man has yet to appear in any of their Spider-Man adjacent movies. Now, Sony has been torn apart for this, not having Spider-Man in a Spider-Man universe. And big surprise, it didn't really work. And although these new statements that Sony...
Yeah, I'll put these in order of what I liked. Venom, then Morbius, then Craven, then Madam Web. Yeah, that's just the first Venom movie. That's my order of their goodness. And Morbius tanked, but to me it was just, it was all right. I think I might even give it a 3. After second watching, it's now down to a 2.5. Which puts it right there. Middle. You know what I mean? Okay, it's all right. But both of those movies were bad, man. Madam Web and Craven. And I won't even argue with the people that say that Morbius is bad. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you. I get it. But Venom was good to me. And I know there's people that didn't like it, but I really would argue that it was a good movie.
This new CEO has said that we're going to go over sound good. They also make me kind of think, what the hell? How could you think certain things before about your movies? And it honestly is kind of a reason why they were bad. With Venom being the possible exception, because Venom is a popular enough and cool enough character on its own.
Plus, it was good. Listen, Tom Hardy talking to himself throughout that whole movie, the two different voices, the way he played both parts, I thought that was great.
Crowd at the box office. And even though those are totally fun and enjoyable films, the Venom films, they're not exactly the best films. You wouldn't put them on par with Captain America the Winter Soldier or Infinity War.
No.
And Sony did pause everything that they were doing with Spider-Man and their Spider-Man universe because they clearly realized what they were doing wasn't going to work, which was great news. It was a great sign that Sony might be catching on to a thing or two, and now this new article also says...
Yeah, of all of them, I couldn't wait for Madam Web to be over. And the last Venom, I was just like, you know what? Madam Web edged it out a little bit with me. Like, oh my God, just please be over soon.
To point to Sony finally getting it. The article is titled, "The Bar for Superhero Films Has Been Raised." Sony Pictures CEO says you can't make a bad movie.
Look, it was raised a long time ago. A long time ago with movies such as Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Captain America, Civil War, Infinity War, even Endgame. Okay? Like, yes, it was raised a while ago. Even with things such as Iron Man. Iron Man was good. Avengers was good. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I watched Age of Ultron the other day, and it was like, it actually kind of holds up. I know it was a disappointment, but it held up better than I thought it would. I was like, I'm enjoying myself.
Talking about superhero movies. The subtitle reads, they have...
I know what some of you are going to say. You're going to say, because everything's so bad now. I don't think so. But that could be it. But I don't think so. I really don't. Because I went into it. I remember I was watching it with Scarlett. I went into it, like, with that mindset. Like, let me see if it's real.
Cultural events that can be marketed that way. Ravi Ahuja says of creating a successful box office hit. The article begins and says, after Sony's Marvel universe of superhero movies sputtered out last fall with the release of Kraven the Hunter, Sony Pictures CEO Ravi Ahuja acknowledged that the bar for superhero movies to be successful at the box office has been raised. He states,
a long time ago. Just follow that and you'll be all right.
Was a period of time where anything superhero was almost guaranteed to do well. I think the bar for superhero movies, it was relatively low. In the mid-2010s, pretty much all of them would do incredible business. But now, even superhero movies have to have a degree of originality. They
don't even need to have that, just need to be good. There's so many... Hollywood tells the same stories over and over and over again. There's only so many stories that you can tell. You know what I mean? And you just have to do it well. That's it. Okay? How many times, his family was killed. Now, one man. You know what I mean? Like, but if you do it right, it'll be a great movie. Do it bad, it's a bad movie.
Have to add something different. They have to have emotional connection. They have to be cultural events that can be marketed that way. Now, Ravi Ahuja...
If you did them right, they would be cultural events, but they're not anymore because these studios have been destroying their IPs.
Is the new CEO of Sony. He became the president and CEO in January of this year, 2025. So when we talk about Sony in this video, I'm not putting the entire blame on him, but how could you not have possibly realized this before? Sure, there is definitely truth to
right.
what he said. And to me, that clearly...
You're getting on him, Wonder. That's what I'm talking about. Stop being nice. You know what I mean?
Explains why they kind of just threw movies out there. That, and of course, they have to keep their rights to Spider-Man, which is also another big problem. Sony, at one point in time, well, really the past few years, have just seemingly released whatever to satisfy that contract to keep the licensing to Spider-Man. And at the same time, they thought that whatever they threw out there, since it was a superhero movie, it would do well. The only problem is, the superheroes that they chose weren't very good. Venom was great, but I honestly think Venom doing well kind of hurt Sony because it's exactly what they thought. They thought they could just throw out any superhero movie and it would perform well. Venom seemingly back...
See? Great minds think alike, Wonder. I can tell you're a real fan here, just like me. It doing well let them think that they could, kind of do stuff like that. And man, if they were all good, it would have built up the tension of eventually seeing Spider-Man. Like, think about that for a second. What a hat trick of a move would it be for a studio to put out movies all around a superhero's main villains without him in it. But they're all done so well that you cannot wait for this Sinister Six movie to come out. This Legion of Doom movie, this Batman Rogues Gallery movie. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if if they could do it that well. And listen, I can't remember which, I guess Venom came out first, but you think of Joker, even though it wasn't, the canon Joker for Batman. But just think, that was a hit. So, I say you do that. And then you do The Penguin, which is interesting. That series is very good. And you know what I'm saying? You do Catwoman. You know what I'm saying? You do Sony Killer Croc, and you do Clayface, and you do all these before you finally introduce Batman. If you could pull that off, man, genius. Because usually in a hero's universe, you're gonna want to see him at least cameo. You know what I'm saying? And I heard they had a cameo planned for Madam Web, but they didn't do it.
That up in their minds. It came out in 2018 and it grossed $856 million worldwide. But it came out after Avengers Infinity War, which came out in April earlier that year in 2018. This was pretty much the peak of superhero movies between Infinity War and Endgame. Of course, Venom did well. Of course, everything kind of did well at that point in time. Captain Marvel grossed over $1 billion at the box.
Well, there's big controversy and over Captain Marvel. All the empty theaters and the rumors, and then me getting in touch with people in Hollywood saying studios do it all the time. Buy up tickets that make it look like the movie did better than what it did. So if a movie's bad, even coming off the heels of Infinity War, that doesn't mean it's going to do well. But I see where you're going with that. But yes, it was a high. People had more faith in, I'll say this, people had more faith in superhero movies at that time. Plus it was Marvel, Venom, probably Spider-Man's most popular villain, enemy. So Tom Hardy, he's Bane. He's the phenomenal Tom Hardy, great actor. Got him in it. Spider-Man's not in it. You want to give it a chance. And the trailers were good, so.
Office and Ant-Man and the Wasp, a relatively smaller superhero, if you know what I mean, did $622 million. So clearly at that time.
But Ant-Man was also good. I was just saying, but people had more faith in Marvel then. Anything related to Marvel, people had more faith in it, So I think that plays its part too. I don't think it's just Infinity War.
It was a pretty stellar time for superhero movies. Mm-hmm. And yes, since the hype was so big, anything at that point in time would have done at least decently. You could pretty much have success with whatever you put out if it was a relatively known superhero. However, Sony would quickly go on to see that you just can't release anything. The sequel to Venom, Let There Be Carnage, came out in 2021 and it did just barely 500,000 worldwide. Then Venom The Last Dance did...
Should have been longer. That's what she said.
Almost 500 million worldwide. And from there, it just kind of tanked. As this article reads, the Jared Leto-fronted Morbius limped to 167 million globally with a historic 74%.
Would you ever want to be bit with by something with teeth like that? It's going to draw blood.
Second weekend box office drop that became a social media punchline. The critically savaged Madam Web grossed just 100 million worldwide, and the Aaron Taylor Johnson-led Kraven the Hunter managed a mere 62 million globally. I actually didn't even know that Kraven did worse than Madam Web. But that is what happens when you consistently release bad movies in a Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man.
You see that? And the trailers for Kraven looked better than the Madam Web trailers. That shows you that people's faith was falling further and further and further. And you can blame Disney for that too, because they own Marvel. And they keep putting out bad movies after bad movies after bad. And people's faith totally tanked. And it wasn't a good movie, so it is what it is.
Take a while to tear Sony apart, but I think they finally get it now. They stopped what they were doing, they halted their universe that they were trying to build up, and now the new CEO seemingly understands that they actually have to make a Now they stopped what they were doing.
Because I'm about to ruin image in the style that they used to. I look funny, but y'all making money.
Halted their universe.
Somebody gonna know.
And now the new CEO
all of Gen X is gonna know.
Understands that they actually have to make a good movie. The article continues and says that Ahuja expressed optimism that the next Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, Brand New Day, would do well, but noted you can't make a bad movie. Well, right. Yeah, when would you ever really think you could? And look, I get it to an extent if it's a low-budget movie.
Some people, I think they can make a bad movie on the strength of the name of a character. They don't have to put much effort into it and just think, is going to do gangbusters like Spider-Man or Batman. You know what I mean? No, it still needs to be good. And the name sometimes can carry you across the line of average box office to good box office, maybe even great box office. But if you consistently do bad movies, you're going to end up being Disney.
You can write it off for some tax purposes. And again, before they kind of just had to make movies to keep their Spider-Man contract, which we assume they still have to do. But hopefully their mindset has changed. The article says, indeed, the Holland-led Spider-Man films, which are creatively produced by Marvel Studios, but largely financed and distributed by Sony, have been a bright spot, with 2021 Spider-Man No Way Home grossing nearly $2 billion. As for Sony's overall approach to making big box office hits, Ahuja said you have to make cultural events, pointing to films like Weapons, Sinners, and Sony's own 28 years later.
You got Tom Holland sucking his stomach all in, all because of y'all messing with him.
It's a bit of marketing, but it's making it an event that people want to go out to theaters and watch together as well. That's always been the case. I think it's just even tougher than it used to be. The issue is it's tougher than it used to be because we're used to a lot of mid-films now. So people are just waiting for it to come to...
Yo, that's what I'm talking about, Wonder. Let loose. We are used to a bunch of bad to mediocre movies. You damn right, Wonder.
Streaming if they have just a little bit of interest in it. Especially in Sony's case, when all they've produced hasn't even been mid, but it's actually been really bad. Again, Venom being the exception. But I've actually said several times I miss when the superhero films did used to be giant cultural events. Marvel at the time did not produce a lot of movies. They would release 2, sometimes 3 superhero movies a year. So when they came out, it was a big event. And we didn't have Disney Plus at the time. We didn't have a excess of superhero projects. So when they did come out, they were about pretty big heroes, and they were a part of a connected universe, something that Sony did want to do but really failed at. But Sony has had some major success with those films.
Who's that they got dressed up as Wonder Woman?
28 years later, and it seems like
That's
they
the chick
do
from Underworld?
understand now what would make a good,
like the third one that was the prequel.
So no doubt they're going to try again. They're not going to let go of the rights to Spider-Man. It's such a big cash cow for them. And since we know Sony's going to start it up again, it's actually really nice to hear all of this coming from the current CEO. It's nice to hear that somebody, at least over there, and it happens to be the person in charge, understands what needs to happen. So it's a great thing that they ended what they were doing before. Hopefully, during this time that they're not doing anything, they will learn from Marvel Studios and the new Spider-Man film. They'll learn from the connectivity of the MCU and the new DCU, and they'll be able to make a new universe that is connected that has Spider-Man in it. And it doesn't have to be Tom Holland.
He looks
and
funny
they
right
even
there.
do
His
Miles
eyes,
Morales
they look
or
too close
Spider-Gwen,
together,
or
so it looks
bigger
weird.
villains that people actually want to see, like Kingpin or Norman Osborn. We know that they wanted to eventually do a Sinister Six movie, but what's a Sinister Six movie without Spider-Man? In an ideal world, yes, Marvel Studios would get the rights back to Spider-Man and all of the characters, and everything would be great. Unfortunately,
right now, I'm glad they don't have it. I think Sony will do a better job.
I don't think Sony's ever given them up. So the best thing we can hope for instead is for them to actually make good movies about characters we actually want to see. And who knows, perhaps they'll strike another deal with Marvel to where these characters can all just exist in the MCU instead of having their own Sony universe. They could just fuse it with Marvel and still make a ton of money. Probably a lot more money than they did with Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter. So this article tells us that Sony is at least coming to their senses a little bit. Hopefully they come to their senses a lot more and do something like letting Marvel use all of these characters in their universe instead of making their own. But if they do...
Good job there, Wonder. Go over and subscribe to Cosmic Wonder. Tyrone Magnus sent you. Post all your comments down below. If you enjoy what I had to say, my reaction and my thoughts, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. 10 million subscribers.